Hi, Kingsley here. Today, we're talking about how to connect with your husband's emotions. You say, Kingsley, husband and emotion? Do those two words go together? Well, we're going to find out in this episode, this video today, if that is so. So I know that this can be a challenge for a lot of wives, but it's so important to be able to do this if you want to have a happy and fulfilling marriage, but also more importantly, if you're going to be the extraordinary wife that I believe that you want to become. And you'll see why I say that in a few minutes. Now, additionally, connecting with your husband's emotions, it aligns with the help meet idea that God has prescribed and talked about in the book of Genesis. It's for her to come alongside and help him in this area as well. And it's also an opportunity for personal growth as you become the confident, self-assured, extraordinary wife that I believe you are and is, or if not, at least becoming. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 3 actionable steps you can take to connect with your husband's emotions. I also will be sharing some of the common objections that some wives have, and maybe you, and I'll show you how to overcome them. I'll also talk about the benefits of connecting with your husband's emotions, and I'll share a story about a wife named Sarah who struggled herself with this issue and what she did. Now, the sole intention of all that I'm sharing with you today in this video, is that you can become that extraordinary wife that God intends for you to become. Now, if you're struggling with connecting to your husband's emotions, may I say this, that you're not alone. Many wives like you have had their own struggles at some point in doing this very thing. The good news is that there are things you can do to connect to your husband's emotions and create the kind of relationship you've always wanted. So as you listen to this video, I want to ask you to do something very important, and that is to ask God to reveal to you what he wants you to do with what you hear. Don't allow your emotions to derail you. Okay, as we go through this video today. Now, here are 3 questions I'd like to ask right at the very beginning of this video. And that is, and here are 3 questions. I want you to ponder these questions. Think about them as we go through. What are some of the ways that you've tried to connect with your husband's emotions? Second question, what are some of the here we go. What are some of the challenges you've faced in doing this? And the third question is, what are some of the benefits you've seen from connecting the times you do, right, with your husband's emotions? What are some of the benefits you've experienced at that time? Now, these are some of the questions that will be unpacked indirectly in this video so to keep in mind these questions as we make our way through. Now, if you're new to this channel and wondering, who am I to be speaking on topics like this one? Let me just say I'm Kingsley Grant, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified relationship coach. I've counseled and or coached hundreds of married couples over the years with a very high percentage of success. And this is true because the couples have told me, I've seen it myself and heard from them in the years I've been doing this. Now, have everyone been successful? Of course not. But I can tell you there are many today who are living a happier life because of the work that we've done together. Now, I'm also a husband of almost 4 decades and have 2 adult children. So I think I've been around for some time, and having worked with all these couples over the years, I believe it become more apparent that the wife, you, holds the key or holds the card, that card that leads to transformation in your marriage. I believe that you hold that key, and you'll see why I say that in a few minutes. Now, it's not to put the burden on you as a wife, but it is to call you up, I believe, to a higher place, a higher state. It's to move you from an average. I'm not calling don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you're an average wife, but it's to move, I believe, wives from that average state, or just being a wife stage to becoming an extraordinary wife. And I believe extraordinary wives are needed today in the day we're living in. We've got to be able to see wives become extraordinary. Why? Because when they become that, I believe it gives the relationship and marriage a better chance to succeed and beat the odds and push back the statistic that says 50% of marriages end in divorce. Yours doesn't have to be that way. And I believe you hold the card for that to not happen. Now, there are three reasons that I've come to the conclusion that if I can focus on the extraordinary wife, I believe that you have more influence on the marriage than you give yourself credit for. Okay. That is I believe that the power of the wife, the power that you have in the relationship. I believe that secondly, I believe you're more invested in the marriage than your husband. It's just one of those things. Doesn't mean husbands are not invested or vested in the relationship, in the marriage. Doesn't mean they don't want to see the marriage succeed. Of course they do. But based upon the research and what I've seen in my own practice, women are more the likely leader or the initiator. Let's put the word initiator when it comes to getting their marriages be better. And so I believe, generally speaking, you as a wife is more open to making the necessary changes in your relationship. And thirdly, I believe that when a wife is empowered to carry out the role assigned to her by God as her husband's helpmate, she is unstoppable. You're unstoppable when you're able to tap into these things I'm sharing with you in this video. Now, these are just some of the reasons I believe it's a mission. If the mission of making marriages happier again is going to be realized, I've got to give you, the extraordinary wife, the tools to make it happen. Now, here's the thing. Even with what I've just said, you might be thinking, Kingsley, how can a man like you, man, period, understand what I go through as a wife? It's a fair question, reasonable question. So here's how I respond to that. I can't fully understand what you go through. I'll just say it right up the top. I truly cannot fully understand what you go through. However, I do know what husbands go through, majority of them, including myself, and how they think and how they feel. So I want to give you some of the inside scoop behind the scene, plus making certain that we allow God to be the final authority on our marriages and not anyone else. Okay. Now you might think trying to connect to your husband through his emotion is a lost cause. You might say you've done that, and it's not for lack of trying. He's just not the one that wants to connect emotionally. And I get it. I understand most men, we are not the ones who are going to show our emotions too often. There are exceptions to everything I do say, so keep that in mind. But generally speaking, and so you might say it's not for lack of trying. Now, if you've had this thought, rest assured you're not the only wife who does. Actually, here's what some wives have said about this idea of trying to connect with their husbands through their emotion. They've said, it's not my job to take care of my husband's emotions. That is something that some wives do say. It's not my job to take care of my husband's emotions. That's his responsibility. Or it might, some wives may say it's too hard, or that they just don't know how to do it. Or they may ask this question, what if my husband prefers to keep his emotions to himself? Now, I hear you in all of that. And these are valid concerns, valid objections, valid things you're raising. But I want to assure you that it is possible to connect with your husband's emotions. I mean, it might not be easy, as you more than likely can tell me. It might not be easy, but it's worth it. When you're able to connect with your husband through his emotions, with his emotions, you really have made an inroad in the marriage. You really have pulled out of him something that is vitally important, that truly can make your marriage transformational. So if you're struggling with any of these objections, I encourage you to keep watching. I'll share some tips with you that can help you connect with your husband's emotions easier than you could imagine. Now, I would like for you to comment below with your thoughts on what I've just shared. And also, while you're at it, smash that subscribe button. Okay. So I'd love to hear your thoughts so far on what it is that I've just shared. I would love to do that. Now, you can also hit that like button if you like what you've heard so far, and the notification bell to be notified when I make new videos like this one. It's also a way to support the channel, and it let me know that you want more content like this. Okay, so I would really appreciate you do that at this time. Now, in the meantime, I want to assure you that it is, and this may sound kind of hard, but it's important. I want you to think about it this way. Think about that it is your job to take care of your husband's emotions. Now, I'm not saying he's not responsible. Please don't get me wrong here. But when I say it's your job, because you're in tune, I believe God has given you that ability to help your husband, to help husbands in general, right? Wives have been given that ability to help husband because you're more the nurturer. It comes natural for you. It's part of your makeup. So I believe it's a part of the job. It's part of your responsibility to help your husband, because when you're able to help him in this area, it truly makes the relationship better, like I've shared before. And the Bible says that a wife is to be her husband's helpmeet, right? And the one that comes alongside and with the things that you bring to the table, which includes helping him deal with his emotions in a healthy way by pulling that out of him. So see it as something that you would take on as part of being his wife. Okay. It's not like a chore, but just see it as something that you're being gifted with, and as an opportunity to truly enhance the life of your husband. Now, in addition to that, it also helps to connect you with your husband's deeper thoughts. And when you're able to do that, there are benefits to be had when that happens. Let me share with 3 benefits with you very quickly. Here's one, the first one, intimacy. So the benefit is intimacy. When you connect with your husband's emotions, you get to know him in a deeper level. And you understand what makes him tick, what he's feeling, what he needs. And when that happens, it leads to more intimate and fulfilling relationship. Wouldn't you agree? Second benefit is deeper connection. It's going to tie in with the first one as well. When you connect with your husband's emotions, you feel closer to him. You feel connected, right? You feel like you're on the same wavelength. You can relate to each other on a deeper level. And what that does, it leads to a stronger and more tighter, connected relationship with your husband. And third benefit is that it honors God. When you connect with your husband's emotions, you're following God's plan for marriage. The Bible says that husbands and wives, that are to come together. And when they do come together, you as a wife become a helpmeet, which means that you're supporting and encouraging him through his emotions, because he will not be forthcoming or be the initiator of that. Most husbands are not that way. I know it can be stereotypically in saying that, but in my experience, it is not the way for most husbands. And as you're listening as a husband, you can confirm this with me and maybe let me know through a DM through social media, to Instagram or someplace like that, or Facebook, or in an email. Let me know what your thoughts are. Would you agree with that? Right? When your wife is able to do that, do you feel like it encourages you, and when she does, it connects you with her at a deeper level? I do believe it does. Now, these are just some of the benefits that I believe awaits you. Now, I want to tell you a quick story about Sarah and John, which is our fictitious couple we've been talking about. And Sarah is one of those extraordinary wife, right? And she wants to deeply connect with her husband, John. But John is a busy executive who doesn't always have time to talk like many of us husbands are or men are about his feelings. And so Sarah noticed that John, when he comes from work, sometimes he just kind of pulls under his shell, and she's watching his body language and sees that there's something probably going on. And so Sarah started asking John open-ended questions. Open-ended questions, a very important question she's doing, open-ended questioning about his day. She asked him how he was feeling, what was going on at work, and what he was thinking about. Now, at first, as you can imagine, John was reluctant to open up. But Sarah, as an extraordinary wife, was patient and persistent. She kept asking questions, open-ended questions, and eventually John started to open up to her. And Sarah, she also started to pay attention to John's body language. She noticed when he was stressed, when he was happy, when he was sad. And she learned to read his emotions, even when he didn't say anything. And so over time, Sarah and John started to connect, as you can imagine, on a deeper level. They talked about their feelings more often, and they started to understand each other better. They also started to feel closer to each other, and their marriage became stronger. Now, as you think about Sarah and John's story, I want you to try to answer this question. What did Sarah do in her attempt to connect to John emotionally? What did she do? Let me just see if you're on par with my thinking. First thing she did was she asked open-ended questions. That's a clue. If you're going to connect with your husband emotionally, ask open-ended questions, not questions that can be answered with one word. It's questions that it requires more than one word answer. Secondly, what she did was she paid attention to his body language. So that's very important. She kind of became a student of his body language to see what kind of behaviors happened when certain things are going on in his life. And thirdly, she was patient and persistent. Did you have those three things on your list as what Sarah did that made her not only extraordinary, but connected with John? If you did, I think we're doing good. We're doing good so far. Now, what are some practical ways then that you could simply use to connect with your husband's emotions? Now, we just mentioned what Sarah did. I would say those are three good things, right? Pay attention to his body language, being patient and persistent, and ask open-ended questions. Those are three already. I've given you three already without even charging you anymore, then, right? But I've given you three already, but I'm going to give you some more in a few minutes. But before I give you those three practical ways, let me encourage you to at least figure a way how to gauge the temperature of your marriage. Maybe you're experiencing some feelings of insecurity or not certain uncertainty. Just some questions about the marriage. One of those ways to really to gauge where things are is to take the marriage assessment quiz that you can take in less than 90 seconds. And what it does, it'll give you a general idea of the state of your marriage. And if you're interested in that, you can access that at happiermarriagesecrets.com/quiz, happiermarriagesecrets.com/quiz. And what happens as you take the quiz, you get a score and then get a downloadable PDF that explains the results of what you have just taken. Again, you can access that at happiermarriagesecrets.com/quiz. Also, let me encourage you to listen to the podcast of the same name, Happier Marriage Secrets, I talk about different topics there, including topics like this one, but there's a whole variety of other topics you want to avail yourself to at happiermarriagesecrets.com. You can see the podcast there and all the episodes that are available to you. Now, what are three practical ways that you as an extraordinary wife can connect with your husband through his emotions. First one I want to share is one you may have heard often is active listening and empathy. Active listening and empathy. So what you saw Sarah was doing, and it says she listened, she was very patient and persistent. In patience, one of the things that, not being impatient, but in the context of being patient with your husband, you want to be able to listen to his body language, right? What's coming across, to be able to, like Sarah did, she was very, very keen on seeing what was being communicated through his body language, right? And so she was very empathetic with him. She asked open-ended questions. She kind of, pushed a little bit, and she was patient, but she empathized. She let John knew how important it was for her to know these things. And she wanted to be able to empathize with him because of how his day was. So by listening actively and asking those open-ended questions is one of those ways that you want to make certain that you approach your husband. Okay. So you are practice active listening, and then you're validating. Whenever you hear something, validate his emotions, and then try to understand his perspective without judgment. That is what empathy is going to look like. Put yourself in his shoes at that time. So that's the first thing I want to encourage you to do is to practice active listening and exercise patience, but in a matter of being empathetic with your husband. Second, respect and honor. Now, cultivate you can do this, right? Cultivate an environment of respect where your husband feel respected. I believe that Sarah did that with John. She was recognizing him as, what he does and the value of what he does in the home, and showing her appreciation. But she also wanted to let him know through his emotions, wanted to hear how he feels about certain things. So when you're cultivating an environment of respect and honoring his emotions, what you're actually doing is responding in a way that uplifts and encourages him. So your husband wants to know that you are appreciative of what he does. He wants to know that you respect him, and in a way where he is being wired to know that you see him as a valuable part of the marriage, that he is needed. We live in a time today where we hear many times with this through the feminist doctrine that women can do without men. And we see that so often being portrayed in many settings. It's almost like there's an emasculation and a dismissal of men. We don't need you anymore. And so your husband needs to not feel that way. He needs to know that you need him and you respect him and honor him as your husband. This is important for him to even want to begin to show his emotions or share that with you. Why would he want to if those things are not in place? So respect and honor him. And the third thing is communicate your support. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard husbands who have said, I feel like my wife does not support me. That's a big deal for many men, for husbands in general. They want to know that you support them. Now, I'm not asking to support him in bad behavior. Of course not. Of course not. We're not talking about those things. So when I say support him, he wants to know that you will support his decision on certain things. He wants to know that you support his hard work. He wants you to know that you support him even when sometimes he make a mistake or something, right? Let him know that you're there for him. You're offering support and encouragement, both through difficult times, challenging times, but also through joyful times. He wants to hear the consistency from you. And so when he's able to hear that you support him, right? So you active listening, respect and honor, and communicate your support for him. I believe you are going to find a husband who is open and ripe to show his emotions. He will respond through his emotions at that time. Now, in this video, we've talked about the importance of connecting with your husband's emotions, right? We've looked at some of the common objections that wives have. and maybe yours as well. We've shown how you can overcome them. We've also talked about the benefits of connecting with your husband's emotions. And we've shared a story about a wife, an extraordinary wife named Sarah, who struggled with this issue. So remember, as an extraordinary wife, connecting with your husband's emotions, what it does, it aligns with your journey to becoming his helpmeet, while also nurturing your own personal growth, because that is also important as well. Is both things are true at the same time. So embrace this opportunity to deepen your connection, to honor God, and create a happier marriage filled with love and understanding, right? So I hope this video has been helpful. You've found some insights. If you're struggling to connect with your husband's emotions, I encourage you to start by talking about it. Let him know that you want to be able to understand him better, and that you're willing to do what it takes, to put in the effort to make it happen. Let him know. Start there and see what happens. Experiment with that. And I would love to hear what that is like. I would love to hear what you're able to see happen as a result of taking some of what you heard in this video and implementing in your marriage. So before I close out this video, let me remind you to take the Happier Marriage Assessment Quiz at happiermarriagesecrets.com/quiz. Subscribe to this channel, listen to the Happier Marriage Secrets podcast, and leave a comment below. Would you do those things for me? Would you do that right now? I would truly appreciate that. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to be able to know that what it is I'm sharing is helpful to you. And make certain that you share this video with at least one other person. Now, all the links that I mentioned in this video will be found in the description that follows this video. So I want to say thank you for joining me today. And remember to subscribe, right, for more empowering content. So until next time, again, I'm Kingsley Grant, and I'm on a mission to make marriages happier again. So until next time, peace out, God bless, and I'll see you on the next broadcast of this channel. Please share and stay extraordinary. Okay, God bless. Okay, see you then.